election, is this made for kids? No, definitely not. But I'll tell you when we got anybody live, and then I'll tell you the story because it was kind of funny. I don't know if it was like funny, haha, but it was just funny, or at least I thought it was funny. It's 11:30. Our meetup game's in another. Holy shit. 2.5 hours. I actually brought my other Robert Graham shirt, the black one. I still haven't worn it yet, but I think I'm going to wear it tomorrow. Nice. Oh, here we go. We got 2 people who are live. Time to start boozing, baby. Hey, Steve from Seattle. Thanks for tuning in. I'm putting on my Robert Graham shirt. It's so funny. My brother, Flounder here, he's texted me and he's like, "How's Vegas, man? What'd you do?" And I said, I landed off the plane, Wayne picked me up, and I went straight to bed. And my
party animal.
Yeah, a super party animal. And my brother's like, oh my God, he's like, that a middle-aged or older, wiser Josh gets to Vegas and the first thing he does is sleep. You know, I think I slept like 9 or 10 hours, and Wayne will attest that if I sleep that long, that I must have been tired. I was really tired. Wayne, you should go live on your YouTube too, just in case. Yeah, I mean, why not? So, yeah, this is my Robert Graham shirt. From that angle, it looked really weird. So here's, and I think normally, like the weight, I don't know. I think it needs to be tucked with the weight, but at this point, I think I'm good to go. But, have any food plans? You know, not really. I think Grand Lux is where we usually eat. We do get a little bit of a comp there, which is good. So that's where we usually eat. Tend to eat on Venetian properties. There's a Mexican restaurant here that's in between the Palazzo and the Venetian that apparently has some of the world's greatest tres leches cake. Yep. Which stands for 3 milks or 3 creams. It's usually a really creamy cake. As a lot of you know, my first wife was Mexican, so I'm pretty familiar with the Mexican cuisines. But tres leches cake, holy Christ, we just went from 2 viewers to 25.
Damn,
that's really quite a bit. You should get on yours as well so we can do it at the same, I don't know. Should we sit this over here at the table? Yeah. We're going to do questions and answering. So, hello. Thank you guys for tuning in. Our meetup game here is in 2.5 hours. Somebody said that they liked more question and answering sessions. And so I decided that's what we're going to start doing. Please help me. Okay. Well, we have 34 people who are tuned in so far. So Wayne and I will answering any questions. We got somebody from Brazil who's logged into. Here, I'll move over this way.
We got water.
Oh, the joys of live. Yeah, we definitely need water. So, I'm good. I like you from Uzbekistan.
Wow.
Awesome. I love the fact that we're getting out quite a bit. Smoke, Federa's lyrics, hi, please give me money. Well, sorry, Ramek Rushan, this is not that kind of channel. Is this prawn? Not sure what prawn is. In any case, PLO Professor and Donkfish here. Oh, Casa Grande, Arizona, and Des Moines watching. Nice. Thanks for tuning in, guys. Again, we have our meetup game is in a couple of hours here at the Venetian, and it's a 5-5. And yeah, it's mixed PLO. It's really good. Just started watching the streaming. So what are we talking or doing? Oh, we do question and answers related to poker. I'm the PLO professor. This is Donkfish Poker. So anything that's Parliament Omaha related, you can ask questions about. Is this corn? No, but I did just get my cornrows in. I appreciate that. So
Like the braids, yeah. A lot of fans of the cornrows.
yeah, I do like the braids. I think the braids are pretty cool. Do you guys like the cornrows? What do you guys think? I know what's the pitcher's name? Kenny Powers. I get that a lot.
Yeah,
So
yeah. We got that at the last meetup game.
yeah, that's okay. So, but yeah, we're here in Vegas, here at the Venetian. Um, Wayne, how do you think the Venetian, the new poker room at the Venetian is?
It's great. It's now the largest room in all of Vegas. It's got over 50 tables. They are working on a streaming studio, which is projected to be completed by beginning of February. So that'll be really cool. Because I think Bally's was the only previous live stream in Vegas, but they're now no longer going, right? So
Correct. I don't think Aria has anything streaming. They do have Poker Go live studio at the Aria that does stream of that nature. So they do stream every once in a while, and they stream like final tables, but they do have a paywall. Me personally, like as a poker player, the World Series of Poker main event, I did not watch because of the
Poker
paywall.
Go subscription.
Yeah,
thing,
you had to pay $10 a month, and I don't know. I've slept in my car before with $10,000 on me, so I'm cheap enough not to pay for what I can just see what happened and see all the clips on YouTube literally an hour after it happens. Trey says, what's on the agenda for the rest of the year for you guys?
So obviously we're here this weekend in Vegas, and then we don't really have much in November together. But I'm gonna probably be in LA for the WSOP circuit, which is up at the Commerce Casino. So I'll probably be there for whatever kind of mixed game tournaments they have, and then we'll be back here most of December. Meetup game is December 6th, and that's right smack in the middle of the pretty much winter WSOP. The WPT at the Wynn runs from the 3rd through the 23rd, and there's other tournaments too. Like I know the Orleans I just saw released theirs. Venetian's gonna have a tournament series, probably a couple others. So it's really an awesome time to come out here. You get the same kind of vibe and electricity in the air as you do in the summer, but as opposed to being 110, 115 degrees, it's 75 and breezy. So a lot of people really love coming out here in December for that. So we'll definitely be doing that. And
I think that's most of our plans.
yeah, that's pretty much the rest of the year.
Yeah, Halloween's right around the corner. I know the only thing I have in November is I'm filming something in Nebraska, November 3rd. But I'm trying to take as much time off in November because I know once December hits, this is going to be a busy December for us. Plus, it's going to be a busy January. Literally, we got 2 weeks in here from the 4th through the 18th here in December. And of course, depending on how that goes, it could be extended or shortened, but probably not shortened. But right afterwards, in January, we've got 2 weeks down in Florida, in Hollywood, Florida, and yeah, it's one of those things where because I'm not sure if I'm flying there or if I'm driving, that's up in the air. But if I'm driving all the way from Michigan to Florida, I have to factor in an extra 3 to 4 day drive, and that's what I'm planning on right now. So for me, it's going to be a little bit of a longer trip, but yeah, that's what we have. Like that's why I'm trying to take November off, is because it's just going to be packed with so full of shit afterwards. I shouldn't say shit, but a lot of poker afterwards. Yeah. Did not know about the Wynn series. Yeah, the Wynn WPT series in December is quite literally like the WSOP in the summertime. It's really good. The weather's really nice. The action's really good. They have PLO tournaments pretty much like every day. And I think like the WSOP, if you're trying to focus on a lot of the tournament series, you're probably going to get more value with the same $300 range in series, like maybe at the Orleans. I think you're going to get some good value there. You do get good value at the WPT, but because it is the WPT series, each PLO tournament's like 600 or 1,100 bucks or whatever it is. You are running into the best of the best for PLO. So there's nothing wrong with that. I think obviously there's some prestige there. There's going to be some tournaments you and I are definitely going to fire at. I haven't even looked at the schedule, and I haven't even put a budget to it yet. But I'll just go with the flow, and we're here. Did not know about the Win series. Davron, we generally don't talk about religion. We talk about spiritual stuff here, which is a little bit different. Nebraska has casinos. No, Nebraska does not have casinos. As some of you guys know, I do some work in the music industry with a Cam, and I manage him, and we're working on that. Steve from Seattle. Oh, of course, other casinos are running events too. Cool. I'm down to the Orleans. Do you live in the Orleans now, Steve? Or in New Orleans, not the Orleans, but.
Well, he might be in Seattle.
Oh yeah, I think I asked him this yeah, it might have been yesterday. But yeah, he's in Seattle, but he's down to play tournaments at the Orleans. That makes sense. Which series would we suggest for mid stakes? Now, when you say mid stakes, are you talking like $200 to $300 per tournament? That's what I think you would be talking about, right?
Yeah, you really can't find many tournaments for that low. I mean, I guess actually no. If you're
at the Orleans, you'll find them for
Yeah.
like $300.
Orleans, I mean, a lot of the like the Moneymaker tours, a lot of those are like $200-300 buy-ins. I know those pretty much run like in the Midwest, like Florida, southeastern kind of area.
But yeah, if you're going to be in Vegas during the WPT series or during all of December, and you want some good value tournaments, I would say the Orleans will probably have some good ones. Because even when we played Deuce to 7 no limit single draw, like there were hands where you're just like, what?
Yeah.
And our friend Premium Hand Sean ended up cashing, but yeah, his bust out hand, it was so funny because when he told me, I said, "Oh, you stake pad, didn't you?" And he goes, "No." It was like,
Yeah.
But
200 to 1,000.
yeah, as far as PLO tournaments go, 200 to 1,000. Again, the WPT has some good ones, and it depends on what their price points were. One year they had it like 600 and then 1,100, and that year was like perfect. You had the people who are normally buying in for $300-400 tournaments were stepping up, and then even for the $1,100 tournaments, people felt comfortable with that. And then I think last year they botched it a little bit because didn't they change it to like 800 and 1,500 for PLO tournaments? And it was like, PLO tournaments are not like Hold'em tournaments. People fire multiple bullets in them. But they did have some tremendous value because even the $600 ones were hitting they had like 50K guarantees and they were hitting 150K. And then the $1,100 ones, they were like doubling the guarantee. So that's pretty good. Orleans runs $150 Omaha tournaments daily. That's an easy one to have fun in. Yeah. And if you're in the midst of a downswing, and I've talked about this before, one of the best ways to get out of a downswing is just to go have fun. Even if you buy into a tournament and you're like, I'm just going to get shit-faced and have fun and remember why I like poker, sometimes that can help get you out of a downswing.
For sure, yeah. The Venetian runs a bunch of low stakes tournaments as well. I mean, mid stakes you said. So I mean, they're more in like the $400 to $600 range.
Yeah, $400 to $800 is what I would say.
Oh yeah, $400 to $800.
Because they do have a couple of $800 ones. But the cool thing that the Venetian did, and they did it during the series, is they had it was like a yellow chip bounty when you got to the money. So there was like $100 bounty, and then when you got to the money, every bounty was worth $1,000. You want to talk about changing the dynamics of a game quite dramatically, because then you're looking at laddering up, and you're like, I'm involved in a 5-way all-in pot, so there's 3 bounties here. If I win this one pot, I can win $3,000, and you're already in the money. So in a way, you're like free rolling it. It adds a completely different dynamic, which I thought was really cool.
Yeah, he was playing a tournament, double suit aces. The fish can't fold, king and queen high flushes. Yeah, I mean, I tell people all the time that I believe kings are the pocket jacks of PLO, and that out of all the hands I've ever witnessed live, I would say kings and like king high flushes are probably the hands that people get in the most trouble with. I mean, my theory on kings is you're never really a huge favorite against anything, right? Whereas aces, even if you have bad aces, if somebody has kings, obviously you're a pretty good favorite there. But kings, no one really goes crazy with queens typically. So like if you have kings and you're not up against aces, which you are going to be a lot of the times, you're going to be up against a hand that you're basically flipping against. You're going to be up against like a 10 high, like a 9 high rundown. So yeah, I mean, king and queen high flushes, not saying you're never going to call or win decent pots with king and queen high flushes, but they are often troublesome. What do you think about kings? I mean, he's saying king and queen high flushes, the fish can't fold. I mean, usually if there's no
one of the thing, like I think the biggest thing is I learned when it comes to PLO tournaments, obviously you want to have 3x 4x starting stack by end of registration, but with them limping in with a suited ace, he's saying the king high flushes can never fold. One of the other things I learned with PLO tournaments is early in the stages of the tournament, don't bluff with the dry ace. Because you are always going to get called. And on the flip side, though, every time you do have the nut flush, just bet pot. Like check pot it like you would with a dry ace, but just potting it is giving you clear value, and you're always going to get called. Yeah, there is free parking at the Venetian if you play for 3 hours. They actually have a reserved parking spot and a placard. It's on the second floor. It's super cool for anybody who lives in Las Vegas that wants to play there.
Yep. We played in Detroit years back, flopped the straight with Jack 10, and cards ran runner 6, 7, 8, 8, 8. I lost. I don't know if you remember. So I guess you played against Trey Chenault.
Was that in the 1-3-10 game or the 5-10-20 or 10-25-50? That would be my first question. It wasn't the 10-25-50 because I remembered all those hands. But I must have had a set against you or 7-8. I had to have either like 7-8, 9 jack, or I might have even had blockers and then ended up winning. That is possible if you had 10 jack. Yeah, but maybe. I'm really good with faces, not good with names, but I am also good with hands.
Yep.
So.
But yeah, if you're not able to make the meetup game, we have that in a couple hours. December's like I tell people all the time. I mean, it's probably the best time to come to Vegas. So definitely worth the trip. How often do both of you get in the money in tournaments in Vegas?
Happened one time at Hollywood, Florida, where we got first and second in big bet mix. It was the only time both Wayne and I have cashed in the same tournament.
Yeah.
And boy, did we make it count. We got first and second place. So that was good.
We're hoping to break the Vegas streak, coming up in December.
What I really hope is somebody like Flounder doesn't show up and outlast both of us, and none of us make the money, including Flounder.
Yeah.
At least if one of us made the money, it would be a better story. But yes, so that's our goal, at least this. Or just like not all of us get barbecued.
Yeah.
The last 2 years, Flounder, Wayne, and myself have all gone to Vegas. And how do you think it turns out each time?
The 2 years ago was probably the funniest. So this was the first year at the WPT, and we're playing a 5-card PLO, like $600 buy-in, and I busted my first bullet, and Josh is like at the table kind of right by the door. So I walk past him to go get my rebuy. I come back. He's in this hand. I sit down, and then I bust out and I walk by him. He's still in the same hand, and he looks at me. He gives me like a little nod, and I was just like, no.
And he goes, "I'm on my way to my third bullet," and I was like, "Oh boy, that was not good." But I'll never forget just the look of Wayne getting up and just seeing it. I'm like, I'm still in the same hand. Like, you guys just went bet all in, and PLO 5. Yeah, that was a pretty crazy tournament.
Good times.
Yeah, and I think our first table on that tournament, I think I was directly to your left.
Oh, yeah, and
I rivered quads against his nut full house, and he bets, and I min raise. Did I min raise or did I pot it?
You didn't pot it. You kind of
I value
almost
raise.
min clicked it or whatever.
Yeah.
And I said, I probably should be raising here, but I'm just gonna call, and I flicked it in, and sure enough, yeah, he hit the one outer on me, set over set. I had top full house. I think it was like Jack. You know, I don't know. You had like nines or something, whatever. But
Yeah,
good times.
I had fours. The
Oh, you
board
had
was like
fours.
Jack 8 4 4.
Yeah, Jack was the highest card though. So
Yeah, somewhere around there. 7 8 9, not 6 7 8. Both running cards can be 8 8. I had Jack Ace Queen. So yeah, I was betting with the blockers, and then it just went runners. So I must have bet pot, and then you jammed all in, and it was like an extra $20, and I probably called, or I had a flush draw, or one of those guesses is my guesses. But yeah, that was a pretty funny tournament, that PLO 5 tournament. It was the first time Wayne had fired 3 bullets in a tournament, punted all 3, didn't even get to the money. And at the beginning of the trip, when we checked into the Venetian, he goes, I don't know how anybody would pay $16 for a Corona. And this is like 2 days later. And it's like the card gods were listening, and the card gods were like, what? You don't know how anybody would pay $16 for a Corona? Let me explain to you how somebody would pay $16 for a Corona. Because I get this phone call, and I'm like, hey, man, what's going on? I see you had 3 bullets. It's not going too good for you. And he goes, yeah, I'm looking at this $16 Corona, and I think I'm about to chug it. And I was like, hold on, boy, I got you. I'm like, I'll be right up. So I grab a pizza from the Venetian, by the way. They make a fabulous Italian pizza, but the damn thing weighs like 10 pounds, okay? And where the pizza place is and where our hotel room is at the Venetian is like literally about a mile walk, maybe 3/4 of a mile walk, because you have to go up a floor and then go around and go up a floor. They really want to make you work out or walk while you're here. So I order 2 32-ounce beers. Okay, so 16 ounces is in a pound, right? So there's 14 pounds that I'm carrying like this, and I'm balancing them on this pizza box, walking 3/4 of a mile. And I remember by the time I get to the hotel room, I'm sweating. Literally, I'm just sweating, carrying 14 pounds like this for like literally 20 minutes. And my brother Flounder left his goddamn prosthetic thing for his foot in the middle of the fucking hotel room. Pardon my vulgarity. But I walk in through the door with the biggest smile on my face. Like, I can't believe I just fucking walked throughout the whole casino, dodged everybody from bumping me, dodged the fucking people in the elevator, managed to whip out my card so I could scan it for the guard, the whole fucking 9 yards. I get to the room, I know I'm good, and I step on my brother's prosthetic foot thingy, and I just thought in mid-step, what the fuck, this is our luck. I'm stuck like 5 G's, Wayne's stuck like 2 G's just today. I got the fucking solution right here, and it's about to be all over the fucking floor. That all went through my head like that, and then I corrected my balance, and nothing got spilled.
that was amazing.
But I'm telling you, that was one of those things where all that shit went through my mind as I stepped on my brother's prosthetic foot thing. And it's so fucking funny to think about that now. But yeah, that was our trip 2 years ago. We all got barbecued, and that was bad. Last year, we stayed at Resorts World because Flounder gets Hilton Rewards or whatever. And they had a cowboy convention, which is great, but we were so barbecued. It was Saturday night, was our last night at like 5 o'clock in the evening, and Wayne and I are like, yeah, we're just gonna stay in the room. On a fucking Saturday during the cowboy convention. Yeah, we were so burnt out and barbecued. We were like, yeah, we're just gonna stay inside. And then I got into a debate on Twitter with David Williams about the Jack 4 hand. But yeah, that was that was my night. That was the night I rewatched that hand like 20 times.
Yeah.
But this December is going to be completely different.
Yeah.
We're going to be up until 4 in the morning every night because we're just going to be partying so hard, because we're just going to be scooping in so much money, and it's just going to be hard for us to sleep on our beds with piles of chips and dollars on it. Hey, we all have to have a fantasy world, right? I can live in my own. That's okay. Trey, I believe it was 510, but not as far as the bankroll structure. Advice or what you do when it comes to a tournament bankroll instead of live table bankroll, or do you treat it the same way? No, if you're planning on just buying into tournaments, you have to factor that you're only going to cash into 1 out of 7. So what you have to factor in is you're going to cash out of 1 out of 7. How many buy-ins can you afford? For example, at a $300 level. So you're going to buy into $2,100 before you cash in any of them. I'd probably say you want to have 10 times the amount of times it requires you to buy in. About 70 times, is that too much? 70 times to be properly bankrolled, because you figured 70. If your buy-in's 300, then your bankroll should be around $21,000. Yeah, that's about right. So you should have like somewhere around 70 times the buy-in for your bankroll to be properly bankrolled. No, maybe that is too high now that I think about it.
I mean,
that's probably too high.
$300 tournament. I mean, you probably want to have at least like $5,000. I mean, that's probably in the low end, but
I would say more like 10 grand. I think to be sustainable, because you have to factor you could have a downswing where you're like 0-30 for fucking tournaments. Yeah.
Talking in regards to this, yeah, I mean, one thing that's worked for us that we've done in some of the trips we've gone on is the first day or so. We did this in Florida one time where we basically played cash the first day or two. We both won, I think, like around $2,000, and then we were pretty much free rolling all of our tournaments.
That was really
for
nice.
The rest of the trip.
That was cool. Really nice. Yeah, that trip was pretty profitable too for both of us. I remember you were up like $5,000 to $6,000. I think I was up like $15,000.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that was super nice, because just winning that in cash, being able to play the tournaments and free roll it. Flounder says he's going to have Tim in his elbow from all the pots he's going to pull in. Are those going to be poker pots, or are those going to be Ultimate Texas Hold'em pots?
Yeah,
that's the question.
He's going to hit the 7 card straight flush.
Or Pai Gow. Yeah, the Pai Gow pots.
Mm-hmm.
So looks like the week of the 15th of December is the cheapest for hotels. Interesting.
That makes sense, because it's kind of the last week of this. I mean, because the Win Series is the 3rd through the 23rd. So like a lot of people probably are burnt out by that point. So, Dom says, looks like you guys coming to South Florida
before year's end. No, we are not.
No. Well, no, before years, no. But we will be there from January 7th through the 23rd. Well, I'll be there through the 23rd. You're going to Cayman's with Flounder for a week, on the 18th. But we're going to pretty much be there for Hard Rock's entire series for the most part. So that'll be pretty cool. I forgot the name of it. Lucky Hearts.
It might be the Lucky Hearts.
I think
series.
It might be the Lucky Hearts. But yeah, whatever their series is, it starts the 7th through the 8th, and then through the 23rd.
23rd, yeah. And so and by the way, if you guys have never played in Hollywood during their big series, they do it once every quarter. Obviously, January is the best time because you get all the snowbirds that come down. So the action is juicy. Last time we were there, we ended up having a 5-5 PLO 4 table. So that's something that we're probably going to try doing again. We also had a Big O table go one night. And then it was weird. It was like, it was like the 2040 group at Milwaukee. Everybody had to go home at like 8 o'clock at night to go take their medicine. Everybody got up and the table broke. And I know I say that, but like even the old 2040 Milwaukee group started getting back together, and they're like, hey, let's play 2040 3060 on Wednesdays. And I was like, is everybody going to go home at 8 o'clock at night to go take their medicine like they did back then? But yeah.
Depends on how big the fields are when it comes to tournaments. Online chart scope says you need 500 buy-in. Yeah, so I mean,
that's a big 2,400 people is a lot. You're not going to get that live.
I mean, that's like pretty much at the series is the only time you're going to get that. Obviously, live, nothing like that. But I mean, if you haven't played live tournaments before,
Mujitsu's saying he has a 40% return on investment, so that's just
really
substantial.
Good. I mean, online obviously is quite a bit different from live. I mean, if you've never played live tournaments before, even though 1 in 7, some people maybe have a little bit better cash rate than that, but I would just pretty much you should just take the money, put it off to the side, and just expect the best, but prepare for the worst. Live. Honestly,
I know how that went this summer. I was just like, wee.
Live tournaments are a lot different. I mean, the biggest difference I would say between cash games and tournaments, besides the obvious, is cash games. You could pretty much just play your game and you'll be profitable. Like you can just pretty much play the same way throughout. I mean, obviously the blinds stay the same. Whereas in tournaments, you really have to change gears multiple times. You know, at the beginning, you could play a little bit wider, obviously, because you have so many more big blinds. You know, compared to the blinds usually start pretty low. You usually have what, like 200-300
100
big
to 200,
100
yeah.
200 big blinds. Whereas, you know, as we get close to the, you know, close to the bubble, there's going to really be a divide. There's going to be the pros and the grinders who say, you know what, like I'm not just trying to min cash, like I'm trying to collect some chips here and put myself in a position to win. But then you are going to have some people that are just kind of happy to be there. Maybe they're maybe it's their first tournament, you know, they're taking pictures, sending it back to their wives or significant others, whatever. Those are the people that are going to pretty much just like fold their way into the money because they just can't imagine playing for 6 to 8 hours, or if you're at the series 10 or 12 hours and not making the money. So those, if you have a bunch of those players at your table, you can kind of take advantage and just almost steal a lot of blinds. And then obviously, then once registration ends, then you can kind of tighten up. So there's different gears you want to say. So I would say if you're playing live tournaments for the first time, just kind of assume that you're not going to cash in many of the first ones you play. But
here's another key point that Premium Hand Sean and I talked about, because he's a really good Hold'em tournament player. Is he was saying in like one of the last tournaments he was in, I'm going to scooch this up a little bit.
Yeah.
He was amazed at what people were calling with the ICM implications that were there. So just because you're aware of, hey, we're down to 20 people, you know, the next pay jump is at 18 and it adds like an extra 1,000 or whatever the case may be. Well, this guy should never be calling with like 9974 here, you know, but they do. So don't underestimate, I guess, the level of stupidity of some of your opponents, or I shouldn't say level of stupidity, the lack of knowledge of the ICM implications and what you're supposed to do and, you know, stuff like that. Stick to your game. When it comes to tournaments. But yeah, like the nice thing in cash games, like last time I was here, the first day I was stuck like $3,000. Second day I ended up winning like 3,400 or something, and then Sunday I won 1,000. I knew just playing my game consistently, making small slight adjustments. I know what I'm gonna make on cash games, and I know it's gonna be profitable. It's just a matter of playing it longer and putting in more hours, and that's pretty standard. And just like the same time when I have really good cash sessions where like last time when I was here last year in November for the Poker Stars thing, you know, I ended up winning like $6,000 or $7,000 on a 1-3 one night, you know, just because I have those big wins. I know that's going to mean I'm going to have a downswing eventually. So so yeah, you have to budget and learn to respect and appreciate a dollar. I had a kid at the island that we were playing poker with yesterday, and not yesterday, Wednesday, and you know, he asked me some questions because I could tell he was an aspiring pro, and I just told him, I said, well, you're just going to go broke. I said, you have to acknowledge that eventually. Like you're going to run through your bankroll at some point, and like 99% of poker players do. But yeah, it's just like I'd rather have somebody have that expectation going into it than not have it. So there's a few people who can do it without going broke, but it's not common. You know, and that's the other reason why you should never harass, if you know another grinder or a poker pro, don't ever harass whatever stakes they're playing in. Unless you're willing to fund that guy's buy-in, you know, and I've seen poker players disrespect other poker players even at the highest of highest levels you can possibly imagine. Disrespect people on their bankrolls and stuff like that, and it's never appropriate, regardless of what your stakes are. But speaking of which, there was a little bit of a funny story. Speaking of bankrolls. TJ Cloutier was playing in a poker game in Texas with one of my I guess, my very first student. And he texted me, he goes, yeah, this guy said his name was TJ. And he goes, damn, he looked really familiar. And he goes, then I realized it was TJ Cloutier. And I said, well, that's funny. I said, he's a good player, I said, but whatever you do, don't loan him money, because apparently he has a reputation where he never pays anybody back. And he goes, it's funny, I've had 3 people already text me that. And I said, yeah. And I said, but also don't, I said, I think he was playing a 5-10 no limit game, or maybe it was a 10-25, I can't remember. But even though somebody's been at the top, winning bracelets and all that other shit, regardless of where you see them, don't look down upon them, even if they're at 1-3. Hell, I was in Texas during COVID, and Johnny Chan was playing 1-3 PLO. I initially didn't even recognize him. I recognized the necklace, and I was like, damn, that green mineral necklace with diamonds all the way around it, that looks super ass familiar. And then my buddy texted me, and he's like, yeah, that's Johnny Chan, dork. And I was just like, holy shit, Johnny Chan's sitting to my right. But yeah, and I don't know, maybe he was bored playing 1-3 PLO. I have no idea. I don't question it. I just respect it that, if you're grinding for a living, whatever stakes you're grinding at, that is what you feel appropriate, I guess.
I mean, and sometimes the 1-3 is way better than the big game. Like, I know when we go to Florida, like the last time we were there, I think both times we ended up playing the 5-5-5 card initially. We were sitting there for like an hour or two, and the game was pretty bad. So I ended up jumping down to the 2-2-4 card PLO, and it was really juicy. I ended up texting you. I was like, hey, this game is way better. So sometimes, I mean, who knows? I mean, obviously Johnny Chan probably doesn't really, care as much about the money at 1-3, but maybe if he's just trying to win money, that could be the best game, even better than, like, say, a 5-5 or 5-10. Not always, but occasionally.
Yeah, sometimes the bigger games aren't necessarily better. I definitely would echo that as well. Non-poker question, how did you guys meet? You go ahead and tell it.
All right, so 2 years ago at the series, I sit down at the Paris WSOP table. It was a $1-5 PLO. I'm sitting down. I think you might have been sitting at that table already.
I was. You sat down, yeah.
And then maybe after, I don't know, 15 minutes or so, you go, hey.
Okay, there we go, guys.
All right, cool.
Sorry about that. So right after, hey, so how we met. Go ahead.
Okay, so yeah, you go, hey, are you Donkfish? And I said yes. We ended up just chatting. I had already started my vlog at that point, probably like 3-4 months. You were thinking about doing your vlog. So I think we ended up, you were playing like a mixed triple draw the next day, and I was finishing a cash session. You texted me, and we ended up getting lunch, and then just kind of chatting, and really from there, I mean, being two of the only, non-Hold'em vloggers out there, it just made sense to work together.
Yeah, and it actually works well. Wayne's pretty introverted, I'm pretty extroverted, and I honestly would not. I'd rather be doing it with Wayne than anybody else. Because the other thing is like the first time we slept in the same hotel room was in California. We were at Hustler Casino, and I said, hey, I gotta warn you. I said, everybody who travels with me knows I snore like crazy, especially if I drink. If I drink, I'm really snoring. And if I drink and I smoke, then I'm really snoring. In any case, so I was like, I just need to warn you of that. And he goes, don't worry, I bring earbuds. And I'm like, are you my soulmate? And then I was like, I also have to warn you, it's really common that I'll only sleep for 4 hours. So when we go to bed at 2 o'clock, it was like 2 o'clock, I was like, I'm probably gonna wake up at 6. And he goes, don't worry, I bring my eye mask. And I thought, this is impossible. I didn't even ask you to bring these things, and you didn't even know my reputation. But I knew at that point, I was like, because when you're traveling with somebody a lot, you get to know all of their idiosyncrasies of being in a hotel room with them.
Yep.
And so that's good,
Yeah, it worked out. Yeah, so that was a little bit over, like, probably 2.5 years ago, and then we did our first meetup game in LA at Hustler. Then we did Texas, we did Chicago a couple times.
Oh yeah.
Obviously now doing Vegas a bunch, so yeah, it makes sense. And as Josh said, we balance each other out. Obviously, our styles are quite different too. You know, he's kind of the loose, crazy aggressive, whereas I'm usually on the tighter side. But we balance each other out in that way. I've definitely probably loosened up a little bit in spots, like the video I just posted last week or this week. You know, I put the $80 straddle on, which I think that was the first time I've ever done. And you know, there's been times that Josh has kind of tightened up quite a bit if he sees the game is just like crazy loose. So yeah, it definitely works out.
Yeah, it's one of those things too that we do complement each other well because, for example, when we were in Hollywood, Florida, I think last January, I was like, man, I don't want to play this 8-game mix. I think it was like a $800 buy-in 8-game. I'm like, it was like the third limit tournament in a row. And I was like, and in the first two, I like basically bubbled, played for like 6 hours or 8 hours and then busted. And I'm like, I just really don't want to do this, and then Wayne's like, shut the fuck up. You're like one of the best 8-game players out there. He goes, if you can't fucking win it, no one can. And I was like, okay. And then that's the one that, we ended up chopping. So, or I ended up chopping with a couple other guys, but it was a good tournament. I mean, it was like $8,500 in my pocket or something. It was like a plus an $8,000 day. And there's been times when I've said to Wayne, you really need to play this fucking game. And then he just punts.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So he tells me to play. I punt. I tell him to play 2 tournaments. He chops 4 ways and then gets sucked out on crazy like third.
Oh God. God. That jack cost me $15,000.
Yeah.
Jack of diamonds. That's one of the things people will always ask you on poker players. What's the biggest amount of money you won? No, it's not. We don't remember those with great detail. I once had somebody ask me. They said, "Hey, I'm dating this new person who plays poker. What do I ask her?" And I said, ask her what's the biggest pot they've lost. I said, because they can remember that with excruciating detail. And, but yeah, Jack of Diamonds on the river cost me 15 grand once. Yeah, but that's okay. You learn that. Yeah.
Good times.
Good times.
That was to Sam, one of our viewers out there. In Florida.
And you know what? He's deserving, though. He's a great player.
Cool dude.
Best state to play PLO other than Vegas or your home state. So MGM Detroit is really good. Chicago's really good. And then I would say Hollywood, Florida, and Texas is really good.
Yeah, there's some really good games in California, too. The game that I kind of came up on was at Lake Elsinore, some of my earlier vlogs. I actually played, I didn't vlog any of the sessions, but I played 3 sessions there earlier this month, and really good action. That's up in Riverside County, so it's kind of in between LA and San Diego. LA has a bunch of good PLO. You can play at Hustler, Hollywood Park.
Hollywood Park now has the mixed, 3 times a week, or is it every day now?
I think it runs every day.
Yeah, and it's a mix of PLO double board and then PLO high low. But I think on their PLO they do PLO 5 high, right?
I haven't played in a while, but they do a mix there. You can actually, if you like 5 card, I personally don't like 5 card high, but at Gardens. So this is where Igor Fancy Bear plays. He plays a lot of the 5-5 mix. So it's 5. So it's a round of 5-5 card, and then it's a round of 5 card bomb pots. I believe I want to say they're like $15 or $20. So if you like 5 card high, that's a good place to play. I personally prefer 5 card high low, 4 card high, but it's a fun game. I played it once or twice. Pretty good action.
Yeah, and there's also a good game at Talking Stick. It's a 5-10-20. And they have, I think, initially a 3K min buy-in or max buy-in, and then you can buy in either for 5K or up to 10K max the stack. And that 5-10-20 at Talking Stick is really juicy action. But the problem is when they do the mix, I think they do the bomb pot twice or the PLO 5 twice. So it's like PLO 5 Big O, and then PLO 5 bomb pot, and then PLO 5. They do one of the games twice, which actually means you play it 3 times as often as the other game, if you think about it, if you figure out the math, or something like that. You're playing at 50%, 25%, 20. I can't remember. Maybe it's like 75%, and the other 2 are 25%. I can't remember. But in any case, but yeah, you end up playing one of the games twice as often, and it was either the bomb pot or the PLO 5, and I remember it was the only thing that I did not like about it. But they also have a really good 40-80 mix there at Talking Stick. The only thing I don't like about Talking Stick is you can't record.
Mm.
So if you're curious why I've never had a vlog out of Talking Stick, we tend to get that in the Midwest. We tend to get that with Indian ran casinos, that they're still paranoid about recording. Same thing with the Midwest and the East Coast. But if you go down south, like for Florida, we had to get permission, but they allow us. Texas, they don't care. And the West Coast and Vegas doesn't care. I kind of am like, if Vegas doesn't care, why does everybody else care about it? It's just, I don't know.
Yeah.
PLO 8 is not a good game.
Well, yeah, because it was up here. So Ohio World said, how
Yeah.
many live ring games in PLO 8 exist in mixed stakes or regular? So I actually had this conversation, with Steve. He's a grinder out here. We ended up playing heads up in a tournament back in August, but you really don't get PLO 8 many places, if at all.
Yeah, it's now taken over by Big O.
Big O. So I mean, but if you like Big O, PLO 8 I don't know about, but Big O, Casino by Me, Oceans 11. I was combining Oceans 11 and Resorts World. But Oceans 11 runs a 2-3 pot limit Big O. I've heard San Antonio is kind of the Big O capital of the world. That was the guy who wrote that book, Scoop. He plays down there, Greg Vale. So yeah, San Antonio is really good if you like high-low action. Those are really the only couple places I know of that run Big O.
Yeah, like I said, that, and then like Talking Stick, Hollywood Park. So there are a decent amount out there. Also in Florida at Ocala, at Oxford Downs, Tuesdays and Thursdays they have Big O as well every single week. But yeah, here at the Vegas now we're doing it every week at the Venetian. They just got a new room done within the last couple of years. Yeah, Talking Stick did. I'd rather play PLO 8 or low 8 over
Limit 08.
Oh, I gotcha.
Over PLO. Yeah, Limit 08 you can find a lot of places. I mean, Orleans pretty famous for running a low Limit 08. What do they run, like a 612?
816, and then
816.
and then they run a 1020, which sometimes turns into a 1530.
Yeah, so yeah, not really too. Yeah, I guess you can find Limit 08 more than you can find PLO 8. I don't even know of anywhere that runs PLO 8.
Yeah,
but
Detroit used to run a PLO 8 on Thursdays, but they don't anymore.
Yeah, so Big O is probably that's kind of where all that's gravitating towards is Big O. So yeah, I mean you can obviously come to the Venetian, play the mix. You get a round of PLO, which a lot of people know. You get bomb pots, which a lot of people know. But then, Big O is a game that some people might not know how to play. So if you don't know it, this is a great game to play because you'll know 2/3 of the game, and then you can just watch Josh's video or pick up, watch one of our vlogs and see how to play Big O.
Yeah. Well, I think that's about it. Does anybody else have any other questions before we log off? I try cutting them off at an hour or a little bit less than an hour. I don't know about the live thing. We're doing our best we can. How do you feel about Limit Omaha? I do like Limit Omaha. I think Limit Omaha is a bankroll builder. Like, if you find a good, juicy Limit Omaha game, especially when you get some of them old farts who've been playing the same way for 20 years and they've just been playing it wrong for 20 years, I love those guys because they think that they know how to play the game appropriately, but they don't. The young whippersnapper coming in. What is Big O? Big O is 5-card high-low instead of 4-card high-low. So you just get an extra card. So.
Yeah, well, I think that's about it. Again, if you can't make the meetup game here in a couple hours, December 6th is the next date, and we're going to be here pretty much from December 4th through the 18th. So we will definitely get the mix going multiple times. And if you're going to be out here, definitely reach out to us. And,
we're going to answer one question from Andrew first. Now we got some more questions coming in. Do both of you subscribe to the 3-3 high-low rule? Josh's rule of being aggressive with 3 Broadway and 3 to a wheel pre-flop.
Yeah, I mean, obviously there are different strengths of 3-3 hands. Like your strongest of which would be like Ace, King, Queen, 3 Deuce. When you don't have like say you have Ace, Jack 10, 5, 4. I mean, it's still a very strong hand, but you could get into trouble in some different spots. I mean, I'm not saying you're going to fold that hand, but you maybe wouldn't play it as aggressively. I mean, my strategy is obviously quite a bit different than yours. You try to kind of bloat pots pre-flop, whereas I try to I try to play more post flop. So like if I have a 3-3 hand, I'm gonna definitely put in a raise. But if someone raises in front of me, I'm not usually going to 3-bet unless it's like on the stronger end of the top, 3-3 hands. I'm just gonna kind of call because I mean if you have ace king queen 3 deuce and I have ace queen jack 4 deuce, I mean sure you're slightly ahead, but the hand's gonna be very flop dependent, right? I mean if like you pair your deuce and now I have like the ace 3 and then I also hit my suit, like I'm gonna be way ahead of you. So I mean, yes, you'd be ahead, but the equities run very close. But to answer your question, I mean the 3-3 hand is good.
I like to bloat the pot because people feel uncomfortable playing big pots, and I like to read them.
Yep, that
That's
works too.
pure preference. Like legit, both ways are good, but for the most part, people in a 3 or a 4-bet pot, especially if they're out of position. If they're out of position, I like to do it because then I can get so many more reads out of them. So if you're curious why I like a 3-3 hand, if we're both sitting there like on a 1-2-5 big O, where the typical bring-in's like $30, and we're both sitting there with 1,000 deep, I'm really likely to 3-bet you because you're gonna have, if you 4-bet, okay, if I 3-bet to like 100 and you 4-bet, you're going to have less than a 1-to-1 SPR, which means I now control the destiny because I know you're never folding. But if you 3-bet, I can get good reads on, or if I 3-bet and you just call, I can get good reads on you and stuff like that. I don't know. It's just a personal preference. Do we pay tax? Yes. But this year, probably not. So
With all the losses of tournaments and stuff.
Yeah. The one advantage of losing during the series is I'm hoping that I pay tax by the end of the year with a nice big couple of binks here at the WPT in December. That would be great.
Yeah.
Can I get a visa when I'm saying professional gambler or poker player? I don't know. That's a question for an attorney, but there is a form that you fill out as a professional gambler. Andrew T, I don't because I'd rather have ace, king, queen, jack, deuce than ace, king, queen, deuce, 3. Now that's a good point, Mijitsu. You and I have talked about that before. I think a lot of times I would prefer to have 4 to a high, but it also becomes SPR dependent and position dependent as well. PLO 4 says how to play versus a tight, aggressive player. Check raise them a lot. You check raise them, you're going to get a lot of information out of them. Tight, aggressive. Usually when you check raise, they're thinking the only thing that's going to check raise is something with the nuts, and you don't have to check raise pot. You can check raise small. But if I'm up against somebody who's tight, aggressive, I'm going to check raise them a lot. And you can ask Wayne how often I do that. It's probably not very often.
I check raise him a lot more than he check raises me. Like, so it's funny because the response you answered him, I actually would say the same thing if someone said, hey, how do you play against loose players like Josh? Like I check raise a lot because I know if I check to him, he's going to bet with a very high frequency. Where even if, I check raise, I don't get any more value, like I'm going to pick up whatever dead money there is. So.
All right, we're back, or we should be back, even though we're wrapping up here. But okay, we're back. But most Europeans, like you have an initial 30% tax, and I can't specifically discuss taxes without being a licensed CPA or an attorney. But my understanding is, like here in the United States, when you win money, they don't take anything out of it. Like if I win a tournament for $100,000, I can get $100,000 in cash, but I get a slip that says I earned $100,000 in income. So if that happens and I have $100,000 worth of gambling receipts, then I can show that I had that loss, so then I don't pay any money in tax. But if I show I had like $30,000 in gambling receipts, then it shows, oh, you're going to get taxed on that $70K of income. Again, don't quote me. I'm not a CPA or a tax attorney, but it's much different for Americans than it is for Europeans. Just like I think if we went to Europe and we won something, I think you get taxed right off the get-go. Yeah, like if you win the WSOP main in Europe, you're going to get like 30% cut or taken right off the top. Do you like tourneys or cash PLO? I much prefer cash.
Yeah, I'm more tournament. I've liked tournaments more, but I've realized the last couple of years as I've played probably like 80% tournaments that I have to have more of a like a 50-50 balance because tournaments, if you play primarily tournaments, your chart is just going to be like huge peaks and valleys, whereas cash games, you can win about 2/3 of your cash sessions, whereas tournaments, I mean, you're very lucky to win like 20 or cash to like 20-25%. So I think the best thing to do is to have an equal balance of both. I think bread and butter is it's much easier to become a cash player, and
Because
then
cash is more consistent. Cash is like going to your 9 to 5 job.
yeah, cash is king, as they say. So I mean, you play cash, and then if you want to sprinkle in some tournaments, start with like your lowest buy-in.
Cash is like, you go to a bar to pick up some chicks, and cash is like, this is what Wayne and I have said. Cash and tournaments are like, cash is like when you look over at the bar and you see some fives and you see some sixes and some sevens and you see a couple tens. And tournaments are like, you just go for the 10 every time, whether you're getting shot down or not. It doesn't matter. You're going for that 10. That's the difference between cash and tournaments.
Yeah,
Consistency.
exactly.
So you're more reliable with, the fives and the sixes and the sevens, or I don't know. It's just, of course, you're going to hear me say crazy shit like that, but that's okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's legal in certain states to play poker online. They have things regulated. That just depends on where you live. So,
yeah.
But I think that's about it. Yeah, come check us out. What makes you the most money, period, in poker?
Cash.
Probably cash.
I mean,
like if you look at Daniel Negreanu, I'll give you real quick. Daniel Negreanu did an interview, and at the time he had like $44 million in winnings, and the interviewer was like, "Hey, Mr. Negreanu, you have $44 million in winnings, blah blah blah," and Daniel went, "Ha ha 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 ha. I think about 9 million of that might be profit." If you take what I consider one of the greatest tournament poker players in our profession, if his profit is 20% of his buy-ins, and he's the best, everybody else is going to be lower than that. They're going to be somewhere in that, 11 to 19% range if they're doing it for a living. Like, how much do you buy in versus how much do you profit? Now, it might be a little bit different now with all the high rollers. I don't know. But, they asked him that before 250K buy-ins were normal. So, in the United Kingdom, you don't pay a gambling tax because a professional gambler is not a recognized occupation. Interesting. However, high-stakes poker players can get into trouble as banks will often flag them for money laundering. Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah, I don't like banks. We won't even get on that topic.
Yeah, that'll be another hour. And a half, so.
But yeah, come join us at the meetup game. And from there, I think that's about it because we're hitting that hour mark. Did you learn PLO GTO? No, I learned by playing.
Same. I mean, I think it's important to know GTO, but the majority of players you're going to be playing against, especially in low stakes, are not playing GTO. So I don't really think GTO, it makes too much sense to...
Where do I store my money from poker? In a hidden place. Safe. Safe from being found in, say, crypto.
In a safe place.
Yeah.
I have some money in crypto. You have a little bit too.
Yeah, I mean, I think poker players' crypto is pretty normal. Getting into tournaments since we got off curfew, but I have always loved the ways things head. When I sit down at a table, I don't leave until I'm broke. Table breaks with tournaments. Well, one thing that is hard for poker players is learning when to lock in a win and get up. But yeah, I hear you. All right, guys. Well, we got an hour and a half till our meetup game, so we're gonna stretch our legs and go take a little walk, and I think that's about it. Play smart, everybody. Run like a god.